Oh yeah, there's always some battle.
That's set in stone. The past is forever. But the future, even if it has been written, can be changed.
Literally, whitetail chat. Straight up verifying that the past is the past and this is not the past. This is a delusion.
So focus on the future, not the past.
He wants to finish what he started.
Also, the subtitle, what going to become of the planet with the meteor hitting in it.
He wants to reclaim his birthright and rule over the planet with Genova at his side.
Which is the question, are they talking? I don't think they're talking about Steppenwalt Hill. I think they are talking about the meteor.
What are you implying? That I died? That I'm some kind of imposter?
I don't think she's an imposter though. I still think it's in Ella's the one with the live stream. I think in a live stream, I guess it would be at that point would be an imposter, but I think it more along the lines of the live stream is just like we waiting or for the puppets, or maybe Meteor doing it, for the puppets of actually continuing to pull the character through the Groundhog Day situation. I am fucking smug I can be right now. Because the trailer literally been saying what I've been saying for the last like 2 to 3 years, that they gave me the sequel, not a remake, but nobody believed me. I had fight with people in chat over the last 2 years over it. And here the game is literally bluntly saying it a sequel. Yeah, what if that? What if fiction, chat? What is a delusion?
You were here with me 5 years ago. Where are you? What happened to you?
I'm trying so hard to find you.
Sorry. Feel like I failed you.
I told you, chat. The only thing I think I'm wrong about this, as long as it's not in the last like 10 minutes of the game, is I was betting it to be like I didn't bet it to be like a plot twist by any means, except for the people who is so delusion that think this is a legit remake. Maybe for them people it'd be a plot twist, but at the same time it's like I still was expecting to get at least halfway to the end of part 2 before they just bluntly say like, hey, you guys in the live stream, this all delusion, like right now Holy Livestream and Meteor are technically fighting for the planet while you all like locked away in that like other mental dimension thing, which already been verified at canon since we went into when Cloud was in the Maconn coma. Like we already technically did that, so not like that would be far-fetched to happen again, but to everyone. And like the whole thing is literally just that. And just the question is like the bigger question in this, I feel, for that this like sequel is what is the purpose of it? Is it literally the live stream trying to kill off the human weight because the human weight was the one killing the planet, or is it like Meteor is fucking with them why they ended like coma states and they all kind of merged as one for the time being, at least at the end of the original game anyway? Like that would be my question, would be like, and then on top of that, it like is the ghosts and the final boss we fought in remake, is that a tied to Meteor, or that tied to the planet or Holy? Like then would be like my questions at that point, which is the main reason why like I am way more interested in the sequel than the original game. Like the original game is good. It's just I don't Final Fantasy did what it did better before Final Fantasy VII. But with that being said, though, it's just like the whole like Groundhog Day time paradox like Matrix. If you want to go that far, concept is like way more interesting to me. I don't care what the sequel is. Still will argue with you. Okay, you can argue all you want. As long as deep down in your heart that it is a sequel and not a remake, and now you don't have to listen to like me and Maximilian go on about it being sequels anymore. You can play devil advocate if you want. I will give you that. But yeah, I was man, like maybe the reason they are bluntly in the trailer just like, no, there's a sequel now, is maybe so I feel like either one or two things. Either on one hand that Square Enix was like, oh yeah, it's obviously a sequel. How can you not think it's not? If you play it and beat it. and they are just like rolling with the whole idea, like, oh yeah, sequel, here we go? Or do you guys think it the whole thing of like, wait, how did half of the fan base did not realize it a sequel? We need to bluntly like whip out a dick and slap them with it to make them realize like, no, shut the fuck up, there's a sequel. Like, stop being all, moany and pissy about certain things changing and like, that not this game. This is a sequel. This is a sequel to retcon all the other shit in the Final Fantasy universe back to ground zero. Get rid of all the shit that didn't matter, all the shit that like convoluted the stuff, such as Dojo Soulblade and Quasic Core, and any of we get that Quasic Core remake, which I'm happy about. And then not counting like getting rid of like Advent Children, before Crisis, like all that other stuff that happened over that like 4 or 5 year period after 7 came out. And I feel like honestly, which I guess we're gonna see that we all getting that Crisis Core remake, will be to see like how much of that remake it also gonna be like retcon, because I think that one will be a remake. I don't think that one is gonna be like in the continuity of sequels. It just begs the question is, in the remake of Crisis Core, how much of that is going to get gutted or shipped around to, line up better with this? Or is it still going to, like, be close enough to the original continuity outside GAC that they will kind of keep it? Because, to be honest, like, from my opinion, from seeing other Final Fantasy VII fan back in the day, I feel like mainly the biggest issue, I think, overall were mainly Advent Children and Dojo Soulblade with the two main issues. So maybe they're gonna actually keep the Crisis Core stuff outside of GAC, of course. But get rid of him so we can get out of copyright hell, which obviously what's happening here. Yeah, I kind of feel like one of them cases. I personally think when it comes to like the way like the developer talked about the part 1, the way they talked about it, it really feel like one of them cases which I give them all the credit in the world on this. Like it kind of felt like one of them things of like they know, which I guess you can't say that for every company, but they know how big of a deal Final Fantasy VII is, not only at Final Fantasy, not only as a Sony franchise or was Sony franchise, but as well as, what it meant to literally the video game industry as a whole. And I think they are simple well enough to realize that. And the vibe I always got from them talking about it, the reason like going into it, even before, 7 Remake came out, like, yeah, this really seemed like a sequel to me. And then it kind of got verified as I played it. But it really felt like one of them cases they are simple well enough to realize, like, hey, we can't just do a one-to-one remake, not in the way that people want, which obviously was like the PS3, version, that tech demo, as well as what remake ended up being. Like, they knew they could not make a game that would live up to everybody's expectation of what that game was or what it meant to them. Because Final Fantasy VII outside of the industry also changed a lot of people's lives, but like that getting like some emotional shit. And no matter what type of remake they did, I think they comprehended they could not do it justice, or not to the point that it'd been built up and everybody had over the last like 20 plus years. So I kind of feel like at that point, taking it and being like, no, let's go ahead, let's just keep. But write a story around content that will, be the fan service and nostalgia part of Final Fantasy VII, and then a fan out on it in a way that doesn't, erase what was already there. Because I feel like at that point, like they try to do like a one-to-one on this scale, there was going to be way too much like backlash. And by doing a sequel, that also not only make it they do not have to worry about, the whole idea of ruining people's childhood, or, all the connotation that come with that, but also have a second chance at making Final Fantasy VII what it felt like Square Enix was trying to push back in, the early 2000s, with all the other stuff. Trying to turn it into the big giant franchise, which at that point with them just trying to capitalize off, Final Fantasy VII being as big as it was, especially as Final Fantasy 8, 9, 10 kind of, flounder in a lot of ways, compared to what 7 did. So like, I feel like at that point, it will probably be the only way to do it. And then of course, for the people who do want that, want the remake, but have it be roughly the same, with some stuff in that, what was it, Everquiet, I think is a subtitle on it. Like, obviously, it look like some stuff in there that might be changing, but I wonder how much of that is just, like, extra content for extra content's sake. And, because everything else about it seemed fairly one-to-one. So it kind of feel like one of them cases, like, hey, for all you guys that want a one-to-one remake, you Everquiet, go play it, small scale, top-down, still, like, chibi-fied and whatnot. And then with Remake Hill being like, this is the only world we can travel. Well, ideally would probably make people upset, but for not the same reason as a proper remake would be. Because this is more along the lines, which, like I said, we're probably going to start seeing a lot of today, especially as more and more people finally start coming out of the closet and will like, oh, fuck, it's not a proper remake. Because, let's be honest, there was going to be so much online discussion, people not comprehending that it was never meant to be a, actual remake. Like I said, the name was literal, and literally because the planet remaking itself. And obviously, with Rebirths here, with the subtitle being that, obviously this is going to fall in line more into the whole, the character being rebirth and realizing, what is going on and rebirth into where they are, outside of the dream state. Which in return will, of course, make, part 3 probably, like a whole new game. Like, no fan service, nothing, completely a new game from scratch here. If they don't do it with that one, because it kind of looks like it kind of is a little bit. I feel like this is the best way they could go. It's just at the same time, I feel like one of them cases, the people who want that one-to-one remake is... Like, the most vocal ones are probably going to be the one that I ain't going to play Everquiet, But then again, at the same time, I can understand the people that did want, like, a super pretty, 4K, version of Final Fantasy VII one-to-one. I understand that. I feel like this is, like, way more, like, productive. Like, not only do you get a chance to retcon the universe that happened after 7, but also being able to do it in a way, the casualty is nowhere near as bad. You do enough fan service to try to keep the fans happy as much as you can, while trying to retcon everything, as well as, like, sidestepping the expectations of what Final Fantasy VII is. As far as literally no amount of super high budgetness remake would ever come close to what people have in their head of Final Fantasy VII. I'm 100% okay with it, as well as, like I have stated, like, I find this story way more interesting, but because, like, the ramifications of the world setup in the original Final Fantasy VII, and then taking that setup and running with it, like, I'm kind of in that camp of, like, after beating 7 originally, like the PS1 version was like, oh, okay, that's good. 6 did it better, but it's good. But the concepts in here that are neat. And then actually seeing that them concept, like, fucked out, like we had, like, the prologue that was Final Fantasy VII, and now we build into what the main plot is. It's kind of how I feel about this. And I know I'm probably in the minority on that camp, but I am so much all for this. And by the way, let's see. I don't think they give a date on this or anything. I'm pretty sure they didn't, right? They did. No, they did. They did say, yeah, net winner. So now going to be the question. Will this actually make it 2023? That is the net real question here. Yeah, I'm more like Final Fantasy 14 Weeble. Yeah, that honestly, you probably pretty spot on that. Because in Final Fantasy 14, it kept, like, the kingdom stayed the same, some of the characters stayed the same, the character grew and became, they were still the same character, but the character actually grew from the event of 1.0 into 14. So yeah, like, honestly, that is probably, like, the best comparison right now is Final Fantasy 7 and Remake / Rebirth now. It's Final Fantasy 1.0 to Rebirth. Or Reborn, I mean. It's literally that. It's not like the story being completely reset. The characters are the same characters and the same character they was by the end of the original game. The only difference in here is, some of the characters, have the memory, like, fragmented a bit. For example, like the example I give offhand when I was playing through Remake for the 4th time, I was talking about, like, yeah, Ellis feel like Ellis from the end of the game, and not Ellis from the beginning of the game. It was like that big juxtaposed there with, like, Ellis when you meet her and the way she went around, especially, you know, with everybody, as well as, like, you know, when you went around doing the whole, you know, like, Bumblebee stuff and the whole, you know, saving Tifa stuff. Like, she had, like, the same cadence as she did after, or around the time, you know, she found out what she had to do. You know, that, like, super, like, childish, 40 attitude just slipped away over the course of Final Fantasy VII. And I felt like she started, like, pretty much at the point she was when she died in 7. And even with Cloud, like, being, like, Cloud would be another example of that. And, like, literally Cloud was calling, you know, Sephiroth bullshit out, like, right away. Like, you know, with no delusion at all about Sephiroth. Like, he knew he was dead. He knew what happened. Like, that whole thing was that well just like, okay, this is not Cloud in the beginning of 7 at all. Everybody was, like, shifted, like, a little bit towards it. It just felt like outside of that, though, the only thing would be, like, you know, the character just pretty much don't remember, like, some of the details. Because obviously, since they trapped in, like, Groundhog Day here, of course, they wouldn't remember it, but they still acted, like, the same way by the end of 7. And that was, like, the biggest, like, red flag for me about, like, yeah, this is not a remake. Like, crazy and fun to watch, yeah. Like, the thing I find funny about it is, like I said, I know Maximilian did it as well. I'm in the same camp as Mac. Before seeing Mac's opinion of it, like, yeah, just like one of them cases. I think it's funny, honestly, of just like, which maybe to just show how many people didn't actually beat Final Fantasy VII, or how many people just saw, like, bits and pieces on, like, YouTube or Twitch or something. Well, it just like that whole, like, the funny thing is that, like, you know, like, I was literally sitting here still wising almost like an hour in originally, and it just, like, coming to terms with, like, man, how did people miss it? They're like, maybe everybody was, like, so blind on their childhood at how they did it, but it can be so interesting to just see now, ideally, outside of the very small demographic that is still gonna hold on to that idea of, like, this is a remake, not a sequel. They ruining Final Fantasy VII because, you know, they fucking up the remake when it's not a remake. Outside of them people holding on to that thought all the way up to the bitter end, and then probably still gonna hold on to it. Like, for the people that literally just had an eye open to what me and Max and a couple other people have been saying for the last, like, what, 2-3 years, it could be so interesting to see them people now go back and play the fourth one again, or play remake again, and start, like, comprehending, like, the distance there. You know, I foresee there gonna be a lot of people that were very dumb or very much fighting on the idea about being a remake that is gonna have, like, coming to God moments, you know. Either replaying it or playing Rebirth, and man, it's gonna be so fun to watch. That way happen, I agree. Yeah, exactly, because it really felt like with Alice, at least. Like, I wouldn't say, like, she, like, 100% knew what happened. Obviously, since, you know, in the trailer, you know, she questioned the whole thing, like, wait, I died? I don't think she had, like, a full comprehension. I think she had about as much as Cloud did. Like, I think she had enough to be like, yeah, this is not right. You know, everything just felt off, I guess is the best way to put it. And, like, that's kind of how I felt about Alice with her. Just, like, I felt like Alice was either one of two things. Either she a part of, you know, whatever faction, which is what I'm curious by. Is she Meteor? Is she the live stream? More than likely, she's probably the live stream. Since she is one with the live stream. She always came across at either one of two things. Either that whole, like, walking the line of, like, this not white, this doesn't make sense. I remember this being distant. Yeah, that, like, you know, like, the whole, like, deja vu, but, like, you can't put your finger on it type of deal. That was, like, how she felt like. That, or she was literally a pawn created by the live stream to just keep the story going. Because that is my question. That's, like, my bigger question now. Like, what is the point of Meteor or Gaia doing the live stream stuff for keeping people in a Groundhog Day? Because if you notice, every time in the Final Fantasy VII, anytime the story starts shifting away from what happened in Final Fantasy VII, was whenever you started seeing them, like, ghosts show up. And, like, the ghosts was very much trying to, you know, force everybody into the same direction as originally happened in 7. So, like, well, Cloud, I feel like Cloud had that whole, like, moments of, like, did not white, I'm gonna call it out, but not, like, fully calling it out. Well, Ella just felt like she was more in that camp of, like, you know, knew something was up but couldn't put a finger on it. And like, yeah, like that's the way it felt. You know, the rest of the character, I'm gonna be interested to see how it goes. You know, with like, you know, Belle, Tifa, and everybody. Cause I can't vouch for Yuffie since I haven't played the DLC yet. With them, they felt like more. Like I said, they just felt like they did at the end of, you know, the base game or the original game. But yeah, like at that point, I feel like, cause you know how I talked about like RE2 remake of being like, you know, you play the PS1 version, you know, you do like A/B scenario, and then the remake is just like CD scenario. Well, that way when we will feel, well, this one feel more along the lines of you play the original Final Fantasy VII, and as soon as you beat 7, you will wipe back, you will wipe into remake. You know, like don't skip a beat, go from one to the next. Is it all gonna be one story? And I talked about that like before. Like if you go look as an example here, I gotta show that one last time here for anyone that missed the discussion beforehand. Like one of the things I pointed out in one of my arguments I had in chat. If you go back and you look at that. Tone it down because it's probably super loud. This is how I think it go down. Is we have this, you know, Meteor crashing in. We got Holy, we got the live stream doing its thing. You know, trying to keep it apart. And then if you look like white here when it fade to white, that is, and then Ellis is looking up because literally Ellis looking up here at the very end, the last thing you see after the white. And then it just credits. I think when it fade to white, that scene with Elliot, because if you watch the original opening, or eyes are open, and you look at this ending, or the actual ending, or eyes are closed, and she looks up and open her eye. And then if you go look at, like, remake intro, yeah, like right here. So, the first time you see Ellis here, if you look at her, like, look, she have her eye closed, and then she will look up and open her eye. And that right there, literally the last frame you see in Final Fantasy VII PS1. And I think that is literally going right into this, and then you just go with Final Fantasy Remake. And then this whole part here, when the second the flash happened, that is everybody jacking into the Matrix, quote unquote, or, you know, Mako, you know, coma for everybody, whatever. Especially for anyone that would, like, quote to the Black Radiant, which, you know, the main character was. I think right there was, like, the tie-in, right into it. Like, at that point, soon as Elwood does it, you put in Remake, and you just play Remake. And that is the connection. Like, it doesn't even skip a beat. It just will right into it. That is the thing. I think it's gonna break reality, personally. I think that is gonna be... Because I think probably what's gonna happen, because my theory have been, we're gonna like probably, like I said, the last trailer or the new trailer kind of have got iffy, but then again that dialogue could be way later in the game. But what I originally thought were gonna happen is we're gonna play part 2, or I get Rebirth now, and it will be like remake, where it's gonna be the same like ideal, like it's gonna be certain things different, but we still gonna have to deal with like ghosts and, you know, pretty much how it was in Remake. I think it would stay kind of semi-close up to the point where Ellis is supposed to die. And I think when Ellis, you know how in the original game, when Ellis is looking at it, she finds out about the materials and the ancients, and, you know, when she runs off, I think what's gonna happen is at that scene when Ellis is looking at all that stuff, and in the original version, she will like what's happening and she leaves. I think that time Cloud will look at it as well and be like, this is not right. And they both, at that point, they both will snap out of the Matrix. And they will like, this is not correct. And I think at that point, they will go up instead of all running away. She will stay with the party up to where Sephiroth would have killed her. And I think that is when they are going to actually break free. You know, they are going to change history at that point and stop the ghosts or whatever they are from trying to linear put them down the same path. And I think that is when the Matrix is going to fall apart. And I think at that point, they're going to wake up. They're going to find out what actually is happening. What is going on with Meteor, Genova, the whole 9 yards. And then from that point onward, the game is 100% a new game. Like, no fan service, nothing. It's just all brand new. And I think that is the point. Like, that will be the point where which would probably was the title Rebirth is coming from. And like that is when they will snap out of it, and then either fade the credit there, or maybe have like a boss battle or something, because you know they wake up surrounded by like all the ghosts and shit like they was at the end of Remake, and either have a final boss there, fight whatever, you know, who knows, maybe just a minion of like, you know, Meteor or whatever, since obviously there was something alive in Meteor, let's be honest here. So do a boss battle, fade the credit, or just fade the credit there, don't even do a boss battle, just fade the credit, and then part 3 will be in, like, back into the real world, which is, you know, where Final Fantasy VII originally took place. They're no longer gonna be in a coma, and they're gonna be in, you know, whatever left or whatever is happening with Meteor and Holy and the Livestream. That is my theory of how they're gonna go. And then at that point, either at like when we get to the new stuff, that when it's gonna get iffy, because I feel like we need more information about the main plot, which we're probably obviously gonna get in part 2 with the way they being like, yeah, you supposed to die, you're not going to, like, time. And I think that also will be a way for them to keep Ellis alive. So for everybody growing up that, you know, did Game Shark or where like IGN like April Fool joke trying to keep Ellis alive, I think they're gonna get in a witch and Ellie gonna come back alive. But with that being said, I still feel like by the time we get to part 3 and it wraps up, I think that is when Ellis actually gonna quote unquote die. I think Ellis at that point is, or will be by the end, is, you know, we're gonna have that like bring people back in with a false delusion, just like, wow, we built the time, you know, the time event, Ellis is back alive, and everybody gonna be all happy doy, especially the people that, you know, literally cry their eyes out or, you know, book game to try to figure out how to bring her back. And then literally we're gonna get to the end, and it's literally gonna be Final Fantasy X. I get life full of Final Fantasy X here. I think Ella, just like Tidus, is a dream of the Mako. And once the planet heal, and once, you know, Meteor and Chernobyl been taken care of, and the planet go back into hibernation as it, you know, being rebuilt into a, you know, what the planet was before, you know, Mako energy started being harvested, like that being a luscious planet again. Is I think at that point is when they're gonna find out that Ellis is literally nothing more than a dream, delusion, whatever it might be of the Mako, and once the Mako is done fighting and can rest, I think she will fade back into the Mako dream and be quote unquote dead again. Because, you know, she never technically was alive at that point. So I think that will be the way they're gonna do it, just like they did with Tidus being the dreams of the Aeons, and then once you kill the Aeons, you know, Tidus faded away. I think that's gonna be what's gonna happen with Ellis. So in return, you get that moment of like, okay, you save her, she stay alive all the way to the end of the game, just to have her die in the last 5 minutes or fade away in the last 5 minutes, and let that crushing depression hit everybody. No matter what, Ellis could not be saved. Or, you know, go the other way of like, Ellis is the one that saved you all, you know, in return. And I feel like it's like, man, there are gonna be some people that not gonna put that together up to that point, and when it does, oh my god, it's gonna be just like 1997 again, seeing like random children crying on the playground about Ellis, like it was back in them days. That is what I think gonna happen. That's my theory. Like, I think she's dead. I think she's just a, you know, a delusion of the Mako energy that is there trying to help Cloud and all his friends break out of the Groundhog Day that Meteor had put them in. Or, you know, trying to keep them in, I should say. And I think the ghost is tied to, like, Meteor. And the reason the Mako used Ellis is because Ellis, you know, was so beloved by all the main characters and had her there as, you know, a way to help put them to the point of realizing, like, hey, this is not right, this is not normal, and help them, you know, break out, you know, of the Matrix. That is my theory, and I'm pretty sure that's what it's gonna be. And yeah, so here in about what, net winter, if it actually do make it 2023, I personally think it's gonna get put back to 2024. We will see. Okay, remember that moment, chat. Remember that moment, and remember all the other moments when I went and waved about Final Fantasy being a sequel, not a remake. Everybody took it at remake when the name is literal. And it's literally the planet remaking itself. And now it's time for the planet and the main character to reboot back into the new, you know, whatever it might be after dealing with, of course, or help or waking everybody up to deal with what is going on with Meteor. So that was my thing. The name is literal, and also I think they also called it remake because at that point, if they would be like, oh, we making a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, like bluntly with remake, I think that also would have been a marketing hit. So I think also by calling Final Fantasy VII remake, I think it was a double entendre. You know, like on one hand, it's literal, if we making the planet, but on the other hand, by calling it remake, you also get people excited because they think it's a remake. And then they play it, and as long as they're not in denial or too dumb, they will hopefully like, no, this is a sequel, not a remake, and they always too far gone into the game to stop playing. As well as also always give Square Enix the money, you know? Because let's be honest, they would have came out and been like, oh yeah, this is a sequel to Final Fantasy VII. It would not been nowhere near as successful as it was. Like, there were going to be millions of people that would have instantly just checked out. So, it's like one of them things, like, good on you, Square Enix, good job. Good job on marketing, good job on being literal, good job on taking advantage of people who is obviously not paying attention to, like, interviews and stuff around that time. You know, that like, perfect, you know, perfect marketing now. And I give all the credit to them on that. The only dissing is that, sadly, there was a bunch of dumb people that came out of it that could not comprehend what was happening. But nonetheless, I had Final Fantasy VII and remake, and I'm happy. I'm happy. Hopefully we can not have that argument anymore. Maybe, probably will. There's probably going to be still that 1% of people that are going to try to fight me on this. But hopefully today event have kind of squashed all that. And hopefully everybody will wake up and smell the ashes and... Or, what was it saying? I'm trying to remember the quote from The Matrix when Neo wakes up. I don't remember the exact quote, but pretty much whatever that quote was. That. There we go. That.